Lombardo, no-huddle show. We are in the radio booth at MetLife Stadium, overlooking the field. The lights are still on. We got some playoff football on in the background. A lot of games today with playoff implications, but for the Eagles, the biggest one to happen for them is their win over the Giants at MetLife. The win clinches a first-round bye for them. And, Matt, I think there's really two ways to look at this game.
Yep.
The first is just what we saw today, strictly these 60 minutes. The next is what this means going forward. Because I think for these next three games, I mean, obviously you want to clinch the number one seed, and that does matter. But this team's going to the playoffs. They're going to have a bye. We want to look at them and see what do we think this means for them. Because when they had Wentz, that's what we talked about each week. Can they win the Super Bowl? Can they win the Super Bowl? So before we get into that, we'll do that part in the second half of the podcast. But let's just, the two big things today, obviously Foles and the defense. But before we get into those specifically, what was kind of your main takeaway from this game today? Just right off the top.
Right off the top of my head, I think that we've been talking all year about how this team responds to adversity, and the most adversity they've faced all season is obviously losing Carson Wentz to a torn ACL, right? Mm-hmm. There has not been anything that has happened in the course of one specific game where you can say this is the most adversity that outweighs losing your franchise quarterback.
Right.
And I thought they responded in a big way today, both big picture as well as within the game. They spotted the Giants a 20-7 lead. I mean, the defense couldn't have been flatter in the first quarter. The offense really struggled moving the ball. And then all of a sudden, Nick Foles and the offense, they start to settle in. Foles has a, rather unremarkable game when you're watching it unfold, but a pretty impressive statistical game. 24 of 38, 237 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, and a passer rating of 115.8. So to me, I think there are some really big picture takeaways from the game, but if you're just asking me what jumps out, what's my first initial reaction to this is, if you're looking to see how they respond to adversity, I think you check that box and you check it off in a pretty emphatic way.
I think my biggest takeaway is, outside of Foles in the defense, is Doug Peterson and John T. Filippo. Not only did this team bounce back from what, you put it perfectly, perhaps the biggest adversity this team could go through is losing Wentz. They come out to MetLife, they fall behind 20-7, and, honestly, it wasn't even that I thought they came out flat. I think the defense just played poorly. I didn't think it was an emotional thing. Doug did say to the players, apparently, after the game, that they need to come out with more swagger. I honestly didn't think that. I think they just played bad to start, which is going to happen.
I think part of the problem here is, Eliot, the defense took the Giants lightly. I think that they walked into this, they
with
looked
good
at the
reason.
2-11 record.
I know you're not supposed to take any opponent lightly, but the Giants' offense was terrible coming into this
31 overall, 22 in total in passing offense, and you're looking at Eli Manning struggling this year, no Odell Beckham Jr. I think that at least partially what we saw in that first quarter was the Eagles playing down to the level of competition defensively.
Well, and I remember, I think it was back in week 5 or 6. I think it was week 5. The Eagles played the Cardinals, and I picked them to lose. And so after the game, I said, look, I thought they were going to lose this game, so I don't care if they blow them out, if it's close, whatever. That's an impressive win to me. And I think this it's not an impressive win, but I think for the same reasons that I thought they might lose this game, which was the fact that it's a third one on a row. It's a division game. You're playing a Giants team with not much to play for. You're integrating Nick Foles into the offense. There was a lot of things working against the Eagles in this game. So the fact that they were the fact that they were just able to win it, I think, is impressive by itself. It wasn't a good defensive game, and we're going to talk about that at length. But the fact that they were able to leave MetLife Stadium today 12-2, they fall behind 20-7, you come back and win. And what I was starting to say about Doug was, I thought he called a great game today. He did have a questionable challenge call, which to me seemed, why do you risk a potential timeout and a challenge on a 10-yard gain on 1st and 10? That just to me seemed weird. So I thought that was a weird challenge. But outside of that, I thought he called a really good game. And honestly, if Nick Foles is more accurate, and I thought accuracy was a major issue for him today, this Eagles team probably locks this game up a lot sooner. I thought there were receivers there that were open that Foles either didn't see or missed. And I thought, the Foles touchdown to Trey Burton, I could have made that throw.
Right, but here, let's just, I know what you're saying, and I hear all that, and that's part of why I said that while you watch it unfold, it looked rather unremarkable. Mm-hmm. Let's not forget this was a backup quarterback coming in cold, and he didn't turn the ball over today, threw 4 touchdowns on the road. If the Eagles, and I talked about this in the video post after the game from the field, if the Eagles don't make the Super Bowl this year, it's not going to be, if today's any indication, because of Nick Foles. It's going to be
if
because
they play
of the
like
defense.
Today.
Correct. If today's any indication. And I think that Foles checked all the boxes today. I thought that he played as well as you could expect any backup to play today. It's not going to be a perfect effort. I think we've grown pretty accustomed to seeing some pretty remarkable quarterback play with Carson Wentz, who before he got injured was a legitimate MVP candidate. Mm-hmm. I had him as the number 1 quarterback in my power rankings over Brady at least 5 or 6 weeks throughout the course of the year, never beyond a top 10 quarterback dating back to maybe week 4 or 5. So I think that the drop-off in terms of the optics were there with Foles, but statistically, I don't think he could have played a better game. The bigger concern for me is, Eliot, you look at the Giants' offense, and you look at all of their struggles. No Odell Beckham Jr. They weren't able to run the ball effectively. They were the 31 ranked offense in the league, 22 passing offense. And the Eagles gave up 434 yards to Eli Manning. He threw 3 touchdowns. They gave up 75 rushing yards and a rushing score to Orleans Darkwa. There aren't any offenses in the league, at least in the NFC, that are going to be in playoff contention that are nearly as bad as the Giants.
No, I mean, the Giants hadn't scored 12 or more points in Eli's last 3 starts. They put up 20 points in the first half of the first quarter. I mean, they really came out on fire. But before we get into the defense too much, let's talk about Foles a little bit, because I agree with you. When you look at his stat sheet, if you just looked at the stat sheet today, you would think Foles played a lights-out game. And if you watch it, I think he played a good game. But, and I can hear the people saying I'm a hater already. I can see the comments. But let's be honest here. He did not play as well as those stats indicate. I mean, the Trey Burton touchdown, that was Doug Peterson. That was an amazing play call. Nelson Aguilar, that was an underthrown ball where Aguilar made
Incredible
a great play.
Catch.
And again, there's been times this year where receivers have made plays for Wentz. There's been every quarterback in the NFL has receivers that make plays for him. But even when Foles threw the 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in 2013, I guess it was, even then, I mean, those are amazing stats. He didn't play as well as they indicate. I think today that was the same thing. He missed a lot of throws. And even some of the throws, I mean, to me, the perfect example of his lack of accuracy today was, I believe it was a 3rd down play to Zach Ertz in the first half. Ertz is open in the flat. Foles throws it to him. Yes, it hits Ertz in the hands, but Ertz is running towards the sideline, has to turn around and go back for the ball, which kills his momentum, even if he weren't able to catch it. And 2, makes it a tougher catch. And it's little things like that where you really saw the difference today between Wentz and Foles. And
I don't think that they're in the same ballpark.
No, they're well, yeah, obviously they're not.
And I think that if you're looking at Nick Foles and judging him against other backups, I think you grade him on a curve. If you're looking at Nick Foles as a starter, I think after today, if this is what you get out of Nick Foles, I think he could start for 12, 13, maybe 14 teams.
Well, I guess what I'm saying, though, is, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe he could start for the Browns. But
look at some of the quarterbacks.
Yeah, maybe the Rams.
San Francisco.
But,
right. Well, I don't think the
yeah,
Rams. Look what's going on in Seattle.
Yeah, I know. But no, I guess what I'm saying though is, if Foles plays like he did today, he has to play better in the playoffs. Is what I'm saying. When those throws are there, you have to take advantage of them. I'm not saying Wentz certainly missed his fair share of throws this year. I mean, he's missed Alshon deep. He's had throws he's missed, but come playoff time, Wentz is going to have, obviously Wentz won't be playing. Sorry, we had a bit of a distraction there. But if Foles doesn't play better, then the Eagles are not going to win. And I don't care that he had 4 touchdowns. I don't care. I mean, not turning the ball over was obviously a positive. And you saw that by Eli turning the ball over today, the Giants kind of let things snowball on him from there. But Foles has to play better. In my opinion, Foles has to play better. I'm not saying much better. I'm saying when the throws are there to be made, he has to make them, because when you play these better teams, the margin for error is so much smaller. And maybe it's rust, but today he did have some accuracy issues.
I think that's just kind of what he is, though. He doesn't have the pure arm strength that Carson Wentz has. I think he's a little bit more accurate on the deep ball than Carson Wentz is. He seems more comfortable throwing screen passes than Carson Wentz was. And I think that the throw on the touchdown to Zach Ertz, that was pretty impressive. And I think that you touched on with Doug Peterson, the play call where Trey Burton broke wide open. That was a brilliant play design on Peterson's part. And to Nick Foles' credit, he didn't turn the football over.
Right,
he was
which was one of the main positives, in my opinion.
Right. And to me, if you can go into a playoff situation and your quarterback throws 2 touchdowns and no picks, just half the touchdowns that we saw against a really vulnerable Giants secondary, you're going to be in a position to win the game. I mean, go back to that playoff game that they lost. He threw for 195 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and the Eagles defense and special teams let them off the hook in that playoff game. So you're going to be in a position, if Foles plays the way he did today, to win a playoff game, I think, but you're not going to be anywhere close to competing against the Rams, competing against the Panthers, competing against the Falcons, and maybe even not the Vikings if the defense goes out and plays the way it did
so
today.
That's the problem. Like when Wentz first went down, we kind of talked about how, all right, well, the other parts of the team are going to step it up. And today you saw the specialist teams do that. They blocked 3 kicks. I mean, Huge plays by them. The defense, though, they did step up at the end of the game. I heard some people, some of the Giants employees complaining after the game in the hallway about how they should have thrown a flag on Corey Graham, but I disagree. I think that was good defense by Corey Graham. He got his head turned around. I thought the defense stepped up at the very end, but today you didn't see the defense step up at all to help Foles. And why I'm saying it's important that Foles hits those throws that he missed today is because with the way the defense is playing and with the elite quarterbacks you're going to play in the playoffs, it's going to be, margin for error is going to be very small. If Foles misses a touchdown or, puts a ball behind Ertz and so he's not able to get a first down or anything like that, that could be the difference in the game. So, yes, it could be rust. And I'm not, it sounds stupid to say, well, obviously he's not as good as Wentz. We all know that. But what you saw today from Foles is he still has a ways to go, despite what the 4 touchdowns say.
Let me ask you this. So let's just flip the script here. Let's just say that on that final drive, the Giants score a touchdown, they win the game 36-34.
Yeah.
Who gets the blame?
The defense.
Okay,
and sure.
But
I think you can also point out in that instance that there were plays to be made that Foles didn't make.
I get that, and I agree. But if you're asking your backup quarterback to make a start and score 34 points on the road, I don't care who the opponent is, whether it's the Giants, whether it's the Cowboys, whether it's the Rams coming in for a playoff game or the Vikings coming in for a playoff game. If you're asking your quarterback to score 34 points and you lose, I don't think that no matter how many missed opportunities he had, unless he goes, 0 for 17 in the red zone or something like that, and 3 of the touchdowns come on running plays, I don't think it's fair to judge that against the backup quarterback. I think you hold it against the defense, and that's where, to me, bigger picture, Nick Foles is going to make some plays. He's going to miss some opportunities. That kind of just is what he is. What I do like about what the offense showed you today is it didn't change. They didn't run the ball any more than they have in recent weeks.
They certainly threw it a lot.
They threw it a lot. They ran the ball 27 times for 108 yards. They averaged 4 yards a carry, which is about average in the NFL. And Foles threw for 237, 4 touchdowns, and didn't turn it over. My big worry is, and again, that's why I say if you flip the script and the defense gives up that touchdown at the end, we're talking about 2 or 3 plays.
Right.
I
agree. I agree with what you're saying, and I gave him a B+, and I probably could have given him an A on the post-game report card that I did for Foles. My only point is he missed a lot of throws out there today. That's my only point I'm making, and that from now on, when we talk about this team, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, we're looking at this team in 2 ways. 1, what they did that day, and 2, what this means for their playoff chances. And to me, and this is a good segue to the defense, I think how I felt about the Eagles' chances in the playoffs from before the game to now are definitely not better, and maybe even worse because of the defense. But I saw a quarterback in Foles today that was able to get the job done, but I just still don't see him as a guy that's going to win a playoff game. I just don't. And I know he threw four touchdowns. No, he didn't turn the ball over. I saw missed throws early on. And let's not sugarcoat this thing, too. The Giants are a bad team.
Yep.
The reason, and I said at the beginning of the podcast, there were a lot of things working against the Eagles, but the Giants are one of the worst teams in the NFL, and that factors into what, if the Eagles play the type of game they played today on offense and defense, they don't beat any team that's a playoff team.
And that's kind of the reality, and I'm with you there. And the problem comes in that the reason why I kind of focus in on the defense and the flaws that we've seen is against those playoff caliber teams in a playoff game situation. Just look at how that game against Seattle unfolded. I think that's a prime example of how a playoff game is going to unfold. Take the outcome off the table, but 1 or 2 plays, the missed throw by Wentz to Aguilar, the fumble along the goal line, those 1 or 2 plays determine the outcome of a playoff game when you have 2 teams that are equally talented. My problem is that when the defense plays the way that it did today, not only does it hurt you on the scoreboard, but it puts your backup quarterback in a position to have to do more.
Credit to Foles that he fell behind 20-7 and still didn't turn the ball over. Didn't force that much, to be honest. There was 1 or 2 throws that maybe I thought he shouldn't have made, but really didn't force much. But all right, let's get into the defense because nitpicking at Foles, that's just kind of what we do. We're always going to, nitpick. It's our job. But the defense obviously had some huge glaring issues. And to me, it started and ended, or I shouldn't say ended, but it started with Ronald Darby. He was not good today. He did not play well today. I've never been a big Ronald Darby guy. And I think today you saw that, last year in Buffalo, he wasn't that good. And yes, since he's come back, he played really well against Dallas. Didn't play well against the Seahawks. Okay against the Rams. Really struggled today. The Giants, and to me, this kind of shows how the rest of the league views him. The Giants had Eli Manning in, who, yes, they're confident in, but they also benched him 2 weeks ago. And then they're they're playing with second, third string receivers. I mean,
Yep.
Odell's not in there. I can't think of the guy's name off the top of my head. King got knocked out with injury. The guy that had the long catch on Darby.
Yep,
So,
and I asked Darby after the game if he would talk.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what did he say to you?
Yeah, he just shook his head and said, "Not today,
Yep.
man," and he walked out the tunnel.
He wouldn't talk to anybody.
So, I mean, listen, I get it. It's a rough day at the office. He wants to forget about it. But
I don't get it though. I think he should talk.
And I'm not defending him. I'm just saying that I can understand from his rationale why he ducked reporters. And this isn't me complaining about not having access to him, but I think that when you play like he did today, he needs to understand that when he blows off talking to the media, he blows off an explanation to
and
the
it
fan
looks
base.
worse because it's not just that. It's
Right.
he goes up there, he says he answers questions for 5-6 minutes. He says he didn't play well. I got to play better. Blah blah. It's a very easy situation to handle.
Owns up to it and walks off, gets on the bus.
Exactly. It's very easy. I mean, this guy isn't a rookie. This is his third year. But by not talking, it just makes him look worse. And again, neither of us are complaining about access. We're just not the type to complain about access. We're not saying, we really care to have the ability to ask him questions. It's more just it looks bad for him.
Right.
So
and to me, I think that when you play that poorly, there's something to be said, and I think that this would have garnered him a lot of respect with the fans by saying, I let my team down today. I didn't play well enough. I'm better than that. I'll be better next week.
Right.
That's all you had to say, and it would have been over. Now, let's just focus on the game today. He gave up 2 or 3 really long passes, had a missed tackle, I believe, on the Sterling Shepard 64-yard pick play that wound up as a touchdown. Just not a good day from Ronald Darby, and the Eagles secondary was almost in crisis mode because they made the decision to leave Rasul Douglas inactive in favor of Brian Bremen.
Bad decision.
But in the fourth quarter, Patrick Robinson goes down with a head injury, went down with another injury earlier in the quarter. You were in a really bad spot there, and you were stretched really thin, and I get it. You wanted to improve your special teams because they've been subpar, and they played well today. You block 3 punts, you block a field goal.
And how much Bremen had to do that, we don't know. But Bremen, the reason, we should just say to the listeners, the reason Rasul Douglas was down was so Brian Bremen
was there. Right. And I don't think that you're helping your special teams all that dramatically, unless, listen, we look at the tape and it was Bremen's assignment that wound up leading to those blocks. But to not have that depth back there, it's a questionable decision on the part of the coaching staff, and Rasul Douglas kind of strikes me as the type of kid who takes a benching or being inactive a little bit personally.
Yeah, I agree. But to get back to Ronald Darby, did a lot today on double moves. I mean, and what I was saying was they went right at him, and I think it kind of shows that the Giants are not afraid of him. Teams are not afraid of Ronald Darby. Now, of course, there's probably only how many cornerbacks in the league that teams are afraid of, but it just shows that Ronald Darby is not viewed around the league as his number one type corner. He didn't play today. And the other guy that did struggle, also at the beginning of the game, was Jalen Mills. A few bad penalties, got beat for a touchdown. You saw the Eagles' corners really struggle today. And look, we've talked about in the playoffs, how's not Eli Manning, sorry. In the playoffs, we've talked about they're going to face elite quarterbacks. How are they going to do against those guys? Eli Manning's not an elite quarterback. He has won 2 Super Bowls. He might be a Hall of Famer. He's not playing at elite level right now. He made them look ridiculous. I mean, Eli Manning has not been able to do this to teams recently. He came and lit the Eagles up. And it's concerning because the quarterbacks you're going to play, I mean, we're recording this right now. Your boy Jared Goff's up 41-0 in Seattle.
Yep.
I mean, he's going to play guys like Matt Ryan. He's going to play guys like Drew Brees.
Yep.
That's who these that the Eagles defense is going to go up against. And over these last 3 weeks, they've played those type of guys, if you want to include Eli in there, just because everything's accomplished. And they've gotten lit up each week. Russell Wilson lit them up. Jared Goff didn't light them up so much, but I mean, the Rams put up
200 yards and 3 touchdowns?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So, and then Eli did what he did today. So, it's not a good sign.
2 touchdowns, rather. But yeah, no, I'm with you. And that's where, again, you have to get a pass rush, and it's hard to get a pass rush against Eli Manning. Let's just be honest about this. He's one of the quickest quarterbacks in the league. Yep. Getting rid of the ball. They run a lot of slants. They run a lot of quick routes. It's just what the Giants do. A lot of players talked about that, including Malcolm Jenkins. But if that blueprint is there for how Eli Manning gets rid of the football and beats this secondary, what's it going to look like when Matt Ryan comes in and does the same thing with Julio Jones? Because Matt Ryan, you think back to that opener a couple years ago, that's their offense too. They do the exact same thing. This is going to be an issue in terms of coverage on the back end if the Eagles' pass rush can't get home.
And what'd you think of the running game today? I'm looking up and seeing what they got.
I was surprised. They wound up with
27
yards.
for 108. Jay Ajayi, 12 for 49. Kenyon Barnett, 2 for 21. Blunt, 7 for 21.
I'm a little surprised by the numbers, only because when you fall behind 20-7, you kind of have to throw your way out of it, which they did, and you don't really have that opportunity to run the ball. And let's not forget, the Giants were driving down the field and had a chance to win the game with under a minute to play. So the Eagles didn't exactly have an opportunity to salt out the victory, but to rush for 108 yards and average 4 yards per touch, if you're Doug Peterson or you're Frank Reich, you feel pretty good about that production, all things considered.
And the other thing that stuck out to me today was coming into this game, the Eagles were one of the best third down teams in the league. And part of that was Wentz, but on the defensive side of the ball, they've been doing pretty good on third down as well. At least they had been coming into today, and last 2 weeks haven't been great. But today against the Giants, 6 of 13, the offense was converting third down,
which was fine. And that was I know what the numbers were, on the defense were, and we'll get to those in a second.
Well, the defense was 10 of 18.
Right.
They allowed 10 of 18.
But in terms of Nick Foles, what did we talk about, Eliot? The biggest thing they're going to have to adjust to is not converting on third downs as effectively as they did
early on. I mean, they started 3 of 7.
Yep, but they wound up, what do you say?
6 of 13.
Which is okay. I mean, it's not Herculean like Carson Wentz was giving you, but you'll be in games, you'll be competitive, you might even win games with that percentage.
And where they really, I think where Foles won the game, and really the team, red zone. 4 of 6, 67% in the red zone.
Yep.
Foles had some of his best throws in the red zone. That first quarter touchdown to Alshon, where he had all the time in the world to throw, but to his credit, he sat back there, he found Alshon, he made the throw. The Burton one, again, he was wide open. It is what it is. But the throw to Ertz was nice on the goal line. So seeing Foles play that well in the red zone is an encouraging sign. On the flip side, the Eagles held the Giants out when they could. The Giants were 2 of 4 in the red zone, 50%. So that's an encouraging sign. So I guess we'll kind of wrap it up with this. I said where I was in terms of, I don't think, from whatever my expectations were for this Nick Foles-led Eagles team coming into this game, I don't think they've increased. And if anything, I feel less confident about this team because it seems like the defense is really falling apart. And I wasn't as impressed as Foles as other people were. Where do you stand?
I'm right around there, and I'm a little more optimistic about Nick Foles because I thought that maybe we'd start to hear the end of this. They're going to be just fine on offense without Carson Wentz talk, and maybe Foles would struggle. But he was adequate today. I can't point a finger at Nick Foles and say that he's the reason why they had to come back 2 or 3 times and why they only won this game 34-29. I look at the defense, and to me, if the Eagles were going to make the Super Bowl this year without Carson Wentz, it was going to be because they played dominant defense and they ran the ball effectively. They weren't dominant on defense today. And if you play like that in the postseason, you're going to put more pressure on Nick Foles, which is going to lead you to have more opportunities for Nick Foles to make mistakes. So I'm kind of with you. I went into this game thinking the Eagles would be a team that might be able to win one playoff game if they played a team like Atlanta in bad weather or they played Carolina. I'm kind of in the same spot. I'm kind of right where I was before the game, maybe even a little worse than that.
It'll need some luck for the Eagles to win.
I don't think you're going to beat the Vikings with the defense playing the way they did today. I don't think you're going to beat the Rams the way that the defense played today. You're certainly going to struggle against the Saints if they come into Philadelphia. Panthers, I think you have a shot against. I think you have a shot against.
Beat the Packers today, though.
Yeah, no, that's at home, but I think it becomes a struggle unless this defense figures it out. If the defense comes out next week against Carr and the Raiders and they give up 13 points and they force 3 turnovers, it's a different conversation. But if the defense plays the way they did today, they'll struggle to win a playoff game.
I think this take from Ross Tucker, NFL guy, kind of sums up how we feel, and I think sums up what nationally the reaction to this game will be. Good news for Eagles fans, they won. Bad news for Eagles fans, they needed to block 3 kicks to survive versus the Giants. No shot versus Minnesota, New Orleans, etc. playing like that.
Agreed. Hey, why don't we climb in Ross Tucker's mentions and say that he has a terrible voice and he doesn't understand football? Because I think he just echoed exactly what you and I were just saying.
So we will see what happens from here on out. The Eagles now, after being away for 3 straight weeks, and man, am I happy they have some home games coming up, they haven't played at home since 3 weeks. So I think like November 26th, something like that. It's been a while. But now they're home the next 2. They're going to have the bye. So they're not going to play a game away outside of Philadelphia until mid-January, like January 14th or something like that. So they have some time coming up at home. They have time to improve the things that you saw today they need to work on. The question is, will they be able to? So we're going to end this here from MetLife. We'll have the post-game, the hot take pod for you on Tuesday with Joe, hopefully. So please send us your reactions. You can tweet us at hashtag the no-huddle show, or you can email at the no-huddle show at NJ.com. So that's hashtag no-huddle show or email at the no-huddle show at NJ.com, and we will react and read your reactions on the pod on Tuesday.
And by the way, if you've made it this far into the show, if you've made it this far listening to us during the season, go ahead and subscribe to us on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, all of those things. Follow us on YouTube. Follow Eliot on Twitter, at Eliot Shorr-Parks. I'm at Matt Lombardo, PHL. We appreciate it. We appreciate all the 5-star reviews, whether the comments rip us or praise us. We appreciate you listening one way or the other. And, Eliot, we will do this again on Tuesday.
Yep. Talk to you guys on Tuesday.